Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage USAID Chief Innovation Officer and Director of the Office of Innovation and Development Alliances, Dr. Maura O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to the third annual Global Diaspora Forum. It was just a few years ago where we both recognized the enormous amount of talent, influence, opportunity there was with diaspora, and wondered if we could create a forum where we could mash up those kinds of talents, ideas, backgrounds for greater things. And we're just enormously excited to do that. Jointly with our colleagues at the Department of State, this is our third year to recognize, celebrate, and inspire the work of American diaspora with roots from all over the globe to contribute to the development and diplomatic relations from their countries of origin. And it's a particular honor for me. I want to extend a personal thanks to the speakers who have made the journey here to share their perspectives and expertise to work together towards rapid and successful economic, social, and development human development of the countries of your origin, whether it was most recently that you came over or whether it was your grandparents or your great-grandparents. We think those global ties is what's going to keep all of us safe and increase the prosperity and opportunity for everybody around the world. Our gathering in Washington, D.C. also brings a really diverse audience. We know that for 60% of you, that's your first time here today. And we hope that you will be vocal in answering your questions, in making contributions, in giving us feedback, as well as there's a survey at the end of it that we'd like to. But we hope that you will feel most welcome to become great contributors from moment one. All of you in attendance come from virtually every corner of the world. We actually have, even in this audience here, we have people from 101 countries. In addition, we're live streaming this, so hello to our people that are watching on the web around the world, and we welcome your involvement as well. I think there must be a Twitter handle for this, right? Matt, is there? We'll find out so that we can figure out how to continue this conversation online. You also have traveled to Washington, D.C. from 32 states around the country to join us in these discussions. This year's forum is really, truly a global event. And for many of you, you know that we kicked off this diaspora on the UCLA campus this past Friday, and a Diaspora at Miami event on Saturday. So we believe that this conversation is one that started before today, and we encourage you to continue. In Los Angeles, over 250 guests participated in a day-long event hosted and directed by the UCLA North American Integration and Development Center, which featured a roundtable from mayors across the U.S. and Latin America on how cities can link across borders and a discussion on regional strategies for empowering diaspora. We are delighted to have Dr. Raul Hinojosa, the director and founder of the center, who's joining us today. I'd like to request that you be stand and acknowledged for this effort in Los Angeles. Thank you. I remember how when we were looking at the diaspora organizations, we found in Los Angeles alone, there were 100 Filipino organizations in Los Angeles alone. So we know that we have just begun to barely scratch the surface of the immigrant and diaspora potential for really improved development. In Miami, Dr. Susan Amat, the co-founder and CEO of Venture Hive, hosted a great event at Venture Hive. It's a tech accelerator for starting and building high-growth technology groups. Diasporas at Miami featured day-long panel discussions and pitches from 7 entrepreneurs, which featured speakers including Carlos Garcia, Nikolai Benzanov, the CEO of .co, Carlos Garcia, the CEO of NoBox, and Patrick Hidalgo, the executive director of the White House Business Council. It was a great venue to highlight the impact of entrepreneurs in Latin America diasporas continuing on their homelands and internationally. This event included pitches, as I said, from 7 entrepreneurs, and I was an entrepreneur in my past and probably will be an entrepreneur again. So there's nothing that makes me more excited than to see a videotape of ADM and know that there are many, many more aspiring entrepreneurs in the communities in which you came from, as well as in the communities of the countries of your origin, that we would like to figure out how it is that we can create a more robust effort. This event, as I said, included pitches by 7 entrepreneurs, including Andre and Nicolai Moreno, who founded Open English in 2007, an online school that teaches Spanish and Portuguese to hundreds of thousands of students throughout Colombia, Mexico, Peru, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and many more. Susan is in our audience, and I'd like to stand and be recognized for her leadership in making the Diaspora at Miami event and champion diaspora entrepreneurship. Could you please stand? Well, I guess she hasn't made it yet here this morning, so maybe having travel problems. Entrepreneurship is so crucial to addressing our development challenges, and I'm a believer that great ideas come from all different places. It's one of the things that makes me so proud of living in this country is that people can have opportunities who have ideas, and that's what we want to invest in and incubate all over the world. Among my responsibilities at USAID is I oversee global public-private partnerships, and I also co-led the major reform effort USAID Forward. It is a critical paradigm shift for both of us in development and diplomacy at both the U.S. State Department and USAID with the support of the White House. I'll just give you 2 examples of where I think diaspora communities helped enormously on the ground in ways that the response couldn't have been more different had they not. Many of you know that Administrator Shaw's on my first day or first week was the devastating Haiti earthquake, which was the largest urban physical disaster that we've seen in modern history. There was a shortage of medical personnel in Haiti, but in particular Creole speaking. And so the Haitian diaspora in the U.S. really stepped up, and we called for nurses and doctors and other medical professionals around the U.S. who spoke French, but particularly Creole, and deployed them. That would not have happened without the vast networks that could be turned on quite effectively in the Haitian American diaspora community. So a huge thanks. Fast forward a few years, one of the priorities of the president is food security, to make sure that countries have the ability to not just have food aid during famine, but actually grow and produce enough food for themselves as well as export. And at the G8 last year, the president announced a new alliance for food security, which is tremendous investment by, it was actually $3 billion worth of investment by private sector into our food security countries. Many of those came as a result of the understanding and the insights that the diaspora community had here and abroad. And so those are just 2 examples of things that we're particularly proud of. We're also pleased that at the inaugural Global Diaspora Forum in 2011 that we announced the International Diaspora Engagement Alliance, also called IDEA. It's evolved into an innovative partnership with over 1,500 diaspora community groups, the private sector and public institutions. Many of these partnerships have been launched with the State Department, USAID, and private sector. So we hope that you'll learn about them more, you'll get involved, and you'll see it as an opportunity to how to get plugged in and how to get support for the kinds of efforts that you have incubated. There'll be an open session today at 10:45, and or you can go to diasporaidea.org. Before governments, diaspora communities, and the private sector can really work together to meet common goals. To do so, we must be willing to have the kind of open dialogue to not only share our successes, but also confront the common challenges we face. I know this is a town where it's tough to say, stand up in public or in quasi-public and say, this didn't go as well as I would like, or this actually was a spectacular failure and this is what we learned. But I think from all of our personal lives, we know that, that while we learn some important things in our successes, in fact, we learn some of our most important things as a result of a failure. So I hope that we will be open and honest with each other and as groups and more publicly to say, what have we learned and what do we still have to do better at as part of that. So I hope that you will do that. I don't know, is the administrator... I'm supposed to introduce the administrator next, but I don't see him. So, so I guess that what I'll do is perhaps take a question or two before he comes. And in particular, I'd love to hear what anybody would like to most get out of the next couple days. So if this meeting, this coming together of all of us was hugely successful, what would have happened? So if you have a question or some feedback to us on how to make this most successful, that would be great. And if you don't, I was a college professor in my previous life, so I have no problem with cold calling. So could you also just tell us your name and where you're from so that we can get to know you as well?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gismet from Sierra Leone.
Great.
My question to you, which borders around the type of thing that we do, policy in terms of alternative public policies with respect to socio-economic development in Africa in particular, in the third world in general. And the problem is emanating on the fact that most of the policies which are being implemented in those countries are rooted from people that has political, tribal, and regional biases. And of course, the alternative source of policy always come from the World Bank, IMF, who may have publicly expressed intentions that may sound laudable, but have hidden intentions that may not seek and serve the interests of those people on the ground, which we have experienced, particularly in Sierra Leone for the past 40 and 50 years, irrespective of the natural advantages that we have. So we have thought it necessary to come along and bring people together that has local experiences to bring on board with respect to presenting alternative common sense. We use the word common sense because some of these solutions are easy to come by if we have people that have the right intention to implement them. So we intend to bring alternative public policies on the table that may be the same or different from what already exists, but we know that will serve the interest. Are there any room for organizations like us in terms of support to see that some of those alternative policy positions that we take are considered, which are very crucial with respect to socio-economic development?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more that it's that kind of dialogue that's going to make, in the end, for best policy and best implementation. So we'd love to talk to you outside of here about either opportunities that you see for that point of view to get more visibility, to get more voice, as well as how we might incorporate that perspective into the work that the State Department and USAID are doing. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, there. Back up. This will help people live streaming to hear us as well.
I flew from Seattle to attend the event, so I'm very honored to be here. I had two questions, I guess. One question and a comment. The question is, this is my first time here, and I have some idea based on the literature, but what you asked us what we wanted to get out of it, but what do you also want to get out of people like me who have no idea what the next couple days are going to be?
Right. You just showed up on a leap of faith, right?
So that was my first thing, and I will continue to come, but also you have to give us something to make sure that we come back. In terms of ideas and interest in
that's right.
make
That's
it
right.
available to us.
Has to be a good transaction.
Right. Seattle is not close to DC.
Right. It's actually where my house and my husband are, so I actually know well. What's your second question?
My second question it relates to Somalia. I'm originally from Somalia. I've been here almost 30 years. But I don't mean to be narrow-minded and just focus on Somalia. But I think that the situation in Somalia, I don't get into politics, so my issue is more humanitarian. So I have no political questions or involvement. But in terms of the humanitarian aspect and the economic and socioeconomic issues, the Somali diaspora can play a crucial role, and there seems to be a disconnect between us here and the actual
work being done.
So, in terms of humanitarian, no politics.
Yeah. So what do you do in Seattle?
I work with an organization called Amerisom International. It's a nonprofit research organization that has nothing to do with politics. So we want to focus on southern Somalia, and in particular, but the problem is it's very complicated. So I guess if you could address the Somali diaspora.
So the first question was, I just flew in from another planet called Seattle. What do I do to make this next 2 days actually useful for me and for us as well? And then the second question on humanitarian interactions on Somalia. So the first one is be aggressive in meeting the people at your table and in your meeting, because we think that this is a convening opportunity as well. So what we want to get out of it is to figure out how to get smarter and plug into, whether it's the politics, whether it's humanitarian assistance, how can we make the development and diplomacy efforts of the U.S. government be that much more robust, that much more ground truth, that much more effective, and that's what we want to do, is create that connection. But as importantly, we believe that what we have today here is a convening, as I said, of people from representing 100 countries of origin from 32 states. So we think actually that we've thrown this event so that you can get to know each other, and you in your business and in humanitarian efforts and others can figure out ways to be force multipliers to each other. So my hope is that every hour you check your watch and say, have I met somebody new? Have I made a connection? Have I got an idea that can make my work or somebody else's work that much more effective? And then we'll know that when you get back on that plane to Seattle, that you will say, that's 2 of the best days I spent. So that's your job, and I hope we've created the environment to do that. On Somalia, I will actually ask the administrator, because I just saw that he did enter the room, at the end of his remarks about hooking into humanitarian assistance for Somalia and how could diaspora groups be more effective in that. But what I'd like to do now is turn really my great pleasure to my friend and head of the agency, Dr. Raj Shah. He's the administrator of USAID. He's a medical doctor by background. There's nobody in this U.S. government that cares more deeply about changing the future of and outcomes for people around the world, whether it's at time of a disaster or whether it's long-term for economic opportunity, for food security, for health and prosperity. So it is a huge honor for us to have the opportunity to operate under his leadership. He's been hugely supportive of global diaspora efforts, both when there has been the Horn of Africa famine and how to get supplies into relief supplies into Somalia that don't get branded with the U.S. government because it puts the people at risk, as well as long-term efforts. So please join me in a warm welcome to Administrator Dr. Rajiv Shah.